Oh yeah, salutations everybody. It is the most creative man to walk the face of the earth sitting down here today to grace you all with a project unlike any other video you've seen before. That's right, I'm doing a top 5 video. Now please hold your applause. Oh, thank you, wow. Yes, I know, it's a rare commodity here on YouTube that you get to sit down and enjoy a top 5 video. So it's my pleasure, my true pleasure to embrace that content and bring it to you today. In all seriousness, if you end up enjoying this video and you want to see more of this type of content, then fire away in the comments down below. We could totally turn this into a monthly series doing top RPGs of August and so on and so forth, or just spotlighting other RPGs. I feel like with all the Xbox news we've done, we've sort of fallen away from the RPG roots, which no bueno. So I want to go ahead and square that up here today, talking about 5 RPGs that I feel have either not been marketed well enough or just haven't been talked about enough by gamers. So I'm hoping to shine a spotlight on a couple today. Be sure to share it around if you found it helpful. So with that, let's get it started with one that may earn its own video down the line as I put more time into it. Celesta, Crown of the Magister. So this game stands out immediately because I know a lot of you out there who are RPG fans like me have likely been at least interested in Dungeons and Dragons, whether you've played virtually on Tabletop Simulator or you've played it with a group of friends in person. I know during 2020 that was a little bit more difficult to do, but I know there's been a widespread interest in D&D. And for me, as someone who was playing D&D for a while and then sort of fell out of it, this game was a great reintroduction to the rule set and everything that comes with D&D, because Celesta actually teamed up with Wizards of the Coast to be granted a license to use the D&D 5.1 rule set for their game. So everything is built upon that, and you realize just how deep all that goes. Plus, there's a phenomenal character creation system in this game, and what's really neat is the game's already out, right? So I'm spotlighting it because there's another big update coming to the game very soon. By the time you're watching this, it'll already be out, and that's including a new sorcerer class, Brazilian Portuguese and Russian localization, new dungeon maker environments because you can make your own dungeons. Of course, there's an Iron Man game mode and bug fixes as well as quality of life improvements with this update. So they're continuing to add more to this game. I found it honestly pretty neat just as a game concept alone because it does mimic D&D in so many ways. So if you're interested in this, of course it has its own story and everything, but I think it's closer to D&D than something like Divinity, which is more along the lines of a video game. Not a bad thing at all. As many of you know, Divinity Original Sin 2 was my favorite RPG of the last generation, so no problems there. But this falls more in line with that, but you're going to see similarities in its gameplay and its reactivity in the environment. It's all kind of there. So there's a lot to really like about Celesta, where I'd say definitely keep your eye on this one. Now, there are also games on this list that I find very cool because it's shocking they exist. So 30 years ago, this game comes out called King's Bounty, and, you know, comes and goes, I guess, right? Because nothing happens for a while. And then all of a sudden, here we are 30 years later. And it's getting a sequel, and it comes out next month, August 24th. It's coming out on the Switch, PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One. It's coming back with a bang. What's pretty cool about King's Bounty is you pick a particular hero at the beginning of the game, but then the combat really builds around your army rather than your individual character. And I always found that to be an alluring trait. I think of a other obscure RPG series known as Kingdom Under Fire, where they sort of mix that around a little bit. Of course, Mountain Blade is another one that has that sort of army building mentality. King's Bounty is also doing that here today. And on top of that, there's a customizable squad with equipment, so you can go ahead and match up their own sets of skills and visual appearances. So you build these armies entirely differently based off the majority of your campaign. And between the different armies, the different heroes, and then the different terrains that they have, there tends to be just a difference in every combat encounter, so it can become a pretty unique game. But really, I wanted to spotlight this one because it's just crazy to exist. It's such a that's so video games kind of moment, right? Where you look at it and think, huh, you know, a game's getting a sequel 30 years later. That could only happen in video games. I don't think I see that happening anywhere else. There's just a love for that, right? There's a love there that developers and companies in general just had to invest in that. So I really like that this game just exists flat out, and I plan on supporting it on that alone. So go ahead, give King's Bounty 2 a look. Now we're going to move into one that I know my BioWare fans out there, the older BioWare fans, are really going to like this one. So games like Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate, they were built on the Infinity engine. So it presented these sort of isometric style BioWare RPGs that were the building blocks for them until they hopped in with KOTOR and absolutely ended my life, because nothing will ever be better than that game. So they made these games beforehand though, and these were their true hardcore role-playing days. And now we have companies that are making games deeply inspired by the likes of BioWare from all those years ago. In fact, this game on its Steam page directly calls out games like Icewind Dale and Baldur's Gate, and that game is Black Geyser. This was originally a Kickstarter game in 2018, and then it was going to release in August of 2019. Kind of missed that release date by a while, and instead it's going to be released as an early access game in 2021, which is unfortunate. And I understand the hesitation with Kickstarter games in general, but Black Geyser as an isometric party-based fantasy RPG to me looks just appealing based off nostalgia alone. I just appreciate that there's a game out there that looks like an old BioWare title with pausable real-time combat. There's companions you can gather. There's tons of dialogue to go through. Not that that's really particularly rare nowadays, right? We've seen like Pillars of Eternity come and go. So I understand all of that. But so many companies are moving that AAA level as we shift into another new generation of technology where you're seeing everyone double down on how much ray tracing can we fit into our game. And I just think of the content level things, like how much more dialogue and audio can you pack into your game? Like how is it easier to make your game more replayable now with this new technology? So that's what I think. And so when I see games like this, I get particularly excited because they may not be the flashiest or the prettiest, but they may be the most bang for your buck. They may be the most exciting long term. And so keep an eye on Black Geyser. Once again, this is an early access game, so not something you should be like, oh, rah, rah, I'm so excited, but definitely worth at least keeping an eye on as the game develops. The next two are one that's already out and one that is coming out very soon, but I wanted to spotlight them anyway because these are both games that are getting very little traction. One's being talked about a decent amount, but just not enough traction where I just wanted to do my part and shout it out. That's Monster Hunter Stories 2. So this is a turn-based RPG set in the Monster Hunter universe. If you were making a Monster Hunter game for Matty, this is it, right? So I like the old Monster Hunter games, like Monster Hunter World I played a decent amount of. I played a decent amount of Monster Hunter Rise. These are all great games, but something just never really grabbed me. I never understood the love, the diehard love for hunting down monsters endlessly, fighting the same bosses over and over and over again. But somehow my stupid brain can understand grinding turn-based combat. We're all different, I suppose. So you've got Monster Hunter Stories 2 here, which is, as I said, a turn-based game set in the Monster Hunter universe. That's it. Sold. It's got Pokemon-like mechanics, but turn-based combat. That's just so much more appealing to me. So I just wanted to shout this game out entirely based off its turn-based premise. I know it's a little more kid-friendly, so keep that in mind. It's also exclusive to Switch on consoles, and it's out on PC, so you can go either way for that. But overall, as a game, it reviewed really well. Better than I expected. Just, like I said, expected to be a little kid-friendly in its dialogue. There's that shortcoming there. But beyond that, it looks excellent, and I'm very excited to dive in. This one's already out. So if you haven't heard of it, look into it a little bit. There's been a lot of coverage. There's been a lot of great reviews for it. It's just not gaining that traction. Like, it's one of those games that across the board, low interest. You know, not a lot of people are watching videos on it. It doesn't seem to be lighting up the sales chart. And I guess that makes sense. It's the sequel to a spin-off series. It's turn-based. There's a lot going against it. So that leaves us with our last game, which has, like, I think everything going against it. And that's Neo: The World Ends With You. So this is a game that I'm cautiously excited for. Neo: The World Ends With You is another situation like King's Bounty, this unlikely sequel, right? We get this DS game, and I think it was like 2007 or 2008. It comes out, and you're looking at it going, wow, this is strange but amazing, right? It comes from the design team of Kingdom Hearts. You can tell it's got the big boots and the funny hair, and you just know it's a Nomura game. And you start playing around with all the pins, and you find out there's fire, and then you get like blown into the microphone, there's air attacks, and it's just a weird, wacky game, but its theme, The World Ends With You, hence the title, really spoke to a lot of gamers. Then, all these years later, you get this action-packed sequel coming from Square Enix, and it's dropping this month, and the marketing has been near silent. It has been really strange to me, personally. And I don't know if that just speaks to the confidence level or if they're just trying to tuck it away because they don't think it's going to do all that well. But either way, I find their silence disappointing because a lot of people have been looking forward to this. They built an anime off of it. I thought they were about to get loud with it, with everything that they had announced for it, and nothing has really happened since. And I'm talking to someone who, I may not make content for it, but that does not mean I'm not invested in the respective communities. And of course, those communities are interested. But beyond that, it has not been nearly as explosive as I was personally anticipating. So I just wanted to shout out this game because it looks like a pretty significant improvement in the combat area. You could play a demo and see for yourself that this game already plays way better than the original. While the original had a charm because of its gimmicks on the DS, once you started moving it to the Switch and the phone and you started to feel its age a little bit and you started to feel like, this needs just general controls, the sequel finally addresses that. And then the problem also lies in that Square Enix and really Tetsuya Nomura just can't help but spoil stuff in their own trailers. So if you are interested in this game, just wait for reviews because they already posted a thing called the final trailer and they did a final battle trailer for Kingdom Hearts 3 and it just ruins the game. I'm serious. It literally does. So please don't waste your time watching that stuff. But if you're interested on a conceptual level and based off what you've seen of the gameplay in this video with Neo: The World's End with You, please check it out. This is a really cool looking game that I don't think is getting enough attention, but I am cautiously optimistic only because I'm happy it exists. But with their silence, I can't help but worry that, maybe this isn't something they're super confident in. Time will tell, but anyway, these are 5 RPGs I just wanted to spotlight here in this video that I feel not enough people are talking about in 2021. So let me know what you're thinking about them in the comments down below. I'm certainly looking forward to your responses. And with that, I'll talk with all of you if I can get my outro right. I'll talk with all of you real soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.